Good, Matt. I can see attendees starting to fill up the webinar. We're going to give it around about between 30 seconds, a minute, and we will launch the webinar. We're going to be about a minute past, but just waiting for everybody to come on in. Okie dokie, let's make sure that an ado is in no way furthered as I say hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to this webinar, Low Code, Snow Code. There will be potentially several winter-based puns throughout this. My name is Ryan T. Thornton. I am aided and abetted by, first time hosting with me together, Mr. Vinny Joseph. He's a solutions engineer without compare, kind of rhymes. Hello, Vinny. How are you?
Great, Ryan. Great to be here. And hopefully first of many, but yeah, looking forward to this.
Fabulous. So as night follows day, me telling you what's going to happen follows the introductions. We're going to have a look at the history of, have a look at the current state of low code, no code, and kind of how we're defining it and how Virtuoso has its own particular spin on it. We will then go on to a demonstration, the good bit, this showing how, not just the high level what, which will be aptly done by Mr. Joseph. At the end, there will be a question and answer session, so please do put the Q&A in the Q&A panel. Then, and nobody's asked for it yet, but it is unusual for the first 3 minutes of a webinar. This is being recorded and it will be winging its way to you tomorrow. So let us begin. Abstraction. So machine code, your ones and your zeros, is your has no abstraction. You can do anything you want with that if you would like, and you live for 1,000 years, you could come up with some wonderful things, but you don't live for 1,000 years. So we have got assembler language, procedural languages, object-oriented languages, etc., built on top of that machine code. Gives you less flexibility in some ways, but the speed and ease of use is always upped. So when we're talking about the way we do it and we're using natural language syntax, so that's writing in plain English, the level of abstraction is kept to the point, we believe, where we are in the right place when we look at flexibility and power, the right place when we look at speed and accessibility, and that kind of machine code's right down there with the that end. Codeless is up there at the other end, and the Goldilocks zone is where you're not having to trade off. So you still have that flexibility, that ability to and accessibility, but you also get the power and flexibility. So we'll forget about the anecdote about Goldilocks and the greedy, selfish girl that thought it was okay to steal from people. It wants to be neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. Could be called the porridge zone if you like. It's the place where you can get flexibility, power, speed, accessibility, all in one place, which I've said in the previous slide. But if it's not code, and it's also not codeless, thinking maybe you could akin a recorder to codeless and a framework to code, then what exactly is it that we're talking about here? Ideally for Virtuoso, it's a programmatic language that is accessible. So we see that this is happening, and I think this is happening across many industries. And kind of if you are using low code, snow code technologies in some parts of your tech stack, then why not, have it through your testing as well? It kind of makes sense. And there's two reasons. One is kind of what's happening in the industry, and it's that absolute need for speed and scale across the SDLC in the age of continuous testing, and the shortage of engineers and experienced engineers. That's not to say that anything less of engineers with less experience, but of course, you can't know what you can't know. Then equally, test automation hasn't existed in a vacuum. There have been advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, if you see that as a flavor of artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, and natural language programming. NLP is within Virtuoso is this ability to write in natural language. And the fact that we've got this need, and now we've got a capability, we're able to get programs and a test automation strategy like we've never had before, exactly in that Goldilocks zone. And we call them, there's others on the market, not just us, AI augmented test automation tools. So that's a kind of high level where we're at, or where we perceive where we're at, and the reasons why we've created what we've created. And I'm going to shut up now and pass over to Vinny, who's going to take that lofty twaddle and turn it into something meaningful and physical that you can see in front of your eyes. Please take it away, Vinny.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. I'm just going to share my screen, and can you all let me know when you're able to see it?
We're seeing you absolutely picture perfect.
Perfect. All right. Just going to minimize this so that I don't have to see me while I'm talking. All right. So Virtuoso, as Ryan has put, is, yes, it's exactly in the Goldilocks zone, where we're trying to get an NLP-based syntax, which is just as typing in plain English, to allow you to write test automation journeys, which allows not only engineers, but even non-engineers to come in and get started with automating the journeys and take control of quality and give the speed that essentially the pace at which we are building journeys, not just with custom code, but also majorly with codeless solutions, which are building software with codeless platforms. And the speed at which we need the speed at which we can match the test automation journeys and the automation from testing perspective. So in Virtuoso, it's all based on a web-based console. So what you see on the screen is a Virtuoso tool. There's nothing to download, install, or configure. You just come in and type in the URL, and if you have access, you're all ready to get started writing your automation journeys, executing them, reporting on them, and also maintaining them. Now, having said that, even though we are available through a web-based console, but we are completely open API enabled, what that essentially means is you can integrate it seamlessly with your CI/CD pipelines, the DevOps processes that you have built in. You can integrate this with your test management tooling, your defect management tooling, and even your collaboration tools. So it's easier for you to just seamlessly fit this in to your ecosystem of tools, and then just expand that capability for codeless test automation to give you the speed and the flexibility that it requires to automate your journeys quickly and build in a repeatable solution, scalable solution that can match the scale, the speed and scale that your development teams are churning out. Now, as an organization, you can create multiple projects. Each project is a collection of goals. And by goals, I would say a collection of test cases more aligned to your test objective. And when you're, as I said, when you're creating a set of goals, you can build in a lot of journeys. It's a collection of journeys within that goal. And that journey can cover an end-to-end business process, which essentially means that an end-to-end business process. So if you take an e-commerce application, it starts from validating a search product functionality, adding a product to the basket, checkout, payments, and all of those scenarios can be covered in a single journey. And while you're doing that, why not open up your backend order management system and confirm that the transaction which was just done is reflecting correctly in your order management system, or make an API service call to ensure that your APIs or third-party integrations are also reflecting correctly. Now, how do we do it? So it's essentially a simple interface where, with the aid of RPA, you are able to just create a simple console by which you can start writing journeys. So the first step, as you can see, is where I have navigated to the application. So I've just written navigate to this rocketshop.virtuoso.qa app. This could as well be your clickable wireframe link, because the whole idea in codeless test automation is you test or you automate your tests very early in the life cycle. Could be as early as your requirements phase when you have your clickable wireframes. And you need to start writing your test automation journeys just as simple as click on run from beginning. And you get on the right-hand side the URL that you have just specified to the navigate to step, and it just loads up and it shows you how it renders on a browser. Now, what that essentially gives you is the option to basically create a new checkpoint, a new test automation functionality. So if you want to, for example, automate the search product functionality, just add in a checkpoint for search product. And it would give you an option here to start writing your test cases. So I see a search box over here. If I need to write something onto the search box, all I need to do is, hey, write the product name in the search box. And that's all it takes. And as soon as I am able to save it, basically immediately executes that on your live application, which you can see on the right-hand side. So you are able to see exactly how that test step that you've written in NLP interacts with the application. It gives you the option to see exactly how this test step has executed. It gives you the screenshots captured to say that, hey, this is the element that we have identified, and this is how it works out after we have executed the action on that element. And this way you can start writing your test cases very quickly. So you've done a search, you can do an assert. So I can just do an assert by saying that, hey, I want to look for this product, which is called tote bag border not found. And it immediately allows you to scan the page. It would identify that product. And if it is able to identify the product, it would pass the test step. So you can see the screenshot again, which shows you that it has identified that product correctly. And this way you can start writing your test cases very quickly. So I want to click on a button, just say click add to bag. It immediately identifies the add to bag button just next to the border not found element, because my previous step, I'm on border not found. You can even specify that, hey, I want to click on top left add to bag, and it would automatically identify the top left add to bag button, because there are multiple add to bag buttons, and you would be able to see how it's interacting against your application. And this way you can write test cases even if there are no hints that you can provide to the tools. So over here I have a button. I can't see a hint that I can provide. So why not right click on it and just say, I can do wait for this element, click on this element. I can do advanced search. In this scenario, I just say click on this element, and it automatically adds a test step. It identifies the application detail or the element details, and it's able to execute that test step as well. It could be for something more complex. So it could be as complex as, hey, I want to store this element into a variable. So I specify a variable name, and immediately adds a test step with that variable name. It populates that variable name with the text that I selected on the screen. And this will pave the way for me to do an assertion to confirm that, hey, I was expecting this prod price to be equal to 34 euros. And immediately it would do that validation. It would confirm that it's providing the correct results, and it would turn green. Now, this is on the UI side, but again, how do we include the NLP side into the API calls? Because API is seemingly something more technical. You've got products like Postman and others where you have to configure it. It's quite technical, but how do you bring it to people who are non-engineers? Well, it's straightforward. You can get started, number one, by just importing your Postman collections. So bring into API testing, and you get the option to import your Postman collections, which would just be a drag and drop. And once you set it up, you can do it manually as well. You specify all of the details. Then it's just as simple as typing an API call, right? And what that allows you to do is not just pass the parameters. So you can pass the data that you wish to pass to this API. You can specify what the response variable will be called. And once that is set up, it immediately makes that API call. And once the API call is completed, you would see the side effect tab is getting populated with the response. You can see that the response has now populated. And now I can run a assertion on this response to confirm that, hey, the response element that I received, I want to check the ID that it's equal to 1. And voila, there you go. So it does the assertion. And this way, even a non-engineer can come in and start writing a series of API calls to make sure that not just your front end is working fine, which you can see how easily we can write the front end journeys, the test steps, but also the backend services are also correctly working, and it is working in conjunction with your UI. Now, this can also be made data driven. So what that essentially means is that I can just say manage test data, select a table, and I would be able to just drag and drop this across the different journeys and make it data driven. So the same journey which I've written can now be executed with multiple test data combinations, which essentially means that this test data table can be created. You can just import your CSV files, or you can create it manually and specify the number of test data elements that you wish to test. The same journey is repeated on all of those combination of test data elements. Now, what it also allows you to do is just use extensions. So yes, you have written a set of NLP syntax that we provide to you out of the box, and that can be used as it is, but you can also extend that syntax to do something more complex. And then this can be something that if you have the capability to write it, you can do it yourself, but you could just come to us and we would be able to specify, we would be able to create those custom extensions for you if required. And we also keep a library of these so that you can start using some of the extensions that we've done to do something more advanced. So, hey, I want to generate random data when I'm doing a journey and I'm testing something. I want to create a random email ID. I want to create a random number, or I want to do OTP authentication, or it could be just viewing a PDF file or doing a drag and drop from one element to another element. So all of those is something that we've already customized and put it in a library for you, but you also have the option to write your own, customize them, and make sure that you can start using them within your journeys to extend the capability. So I'll take a quick pause here. Ryan, I'm sure that we want to keep some time aside for the questions. So I hope this was useful, but I'm more than happy to take on questions if there are any.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Vinny. Absolutely excellent. Just going to get my screen share served across. We do have at least one question coming in. It's just come in, so I've got to read it again. I note PDFs. Am I able to validate against the contents of PDFs?
Absolutely, you can. So that's the extension that we've written. So it allows you to download the PDF and open it up on a browser. And you can then do an assertion to look for a specific element on that PDF. And that is what a typical test case would entail. So yes, you've created a PDF report, but you want to confirm that the contents reflect what you see on the screen or what you expect it to show up. So yeah, the short answer is yes. And yes, we do have extensions to do that.
We still have to test against Internet Explorer. Does your cross-browser have that?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. And that is something which a lot of customers would want, because they not just want to test the functionality, but they also want to make sure that it works fine in the different OS browser combinations. And what we've done is we've integrated our solution with device cloud providers like BrowserStack and Lambda Test. And what that entails is to do is we can use the device clouds. You can choose the different combinations of OS browser devices, even the versions of browsers and the version of OSs. And that would allow you to select those combinations. So the same journey that you've written, it works on a default browser. It can also be tested on multiple OS browser combinations and even devices, mobile devices. So you can select iPads, Android tablets, or Android mobile phones or iPhones, and you would be able to run the same journey on multiple OS browser combinations. So there are some customers who have written in a very responsive way. So those websites, the same journey can be replicated on multiple device combinations. But for some customers, if they've done something specific to the mobile, there might be slight variations that you may have to add for the mobile. But yes, it can be seamlessly working across all of those combinations. So I hope that answers your question.
I think it must do. I hope it does as well, actually. I shouldn't be the judge of that, shouldn't I? But I thought it personally, it was a good answer to the question. So with the no code, low code platform we're needing to test, as you can imagine, there are a lot of drag and drops, less text and more visual or more image based. Is that something Virtuoso can accommodate?
Absolutely. So I was showing the extensions, and one of the extensions that we built is to do a lot of drag and drop. So we work at the DOM level, so the document object model level. And what that allows us to do is identify the elements within the DOM, and you can make sure that you can drag those elements from one element to another element. And that would allow you to do a lot of mouse applications and mouse interactions as well, mouse key down, drag, and all of that. And all the visual elements, and then there's something which a lot of mouse actions are also enabled, like mouse hover, and that would allow us to bring in the elements in the DOM and then do a validation on those elements. So absolutely, all the visual type of testing, it can be done. And also we do have a capability in addition to all of these, is what we call as visual regression. And what visual regression allows you to do is it takes a snapshot of your application, not a screenshot, but a snapshot for everything that loads on the browser. And it would then be able to, you would then be able to just compare it with the different iterations that you've run upon. So you would be able to compare a release which was done last month, and you can compare it with the new release and see what are the major differences in the UI. And if there are some issues, it would automatically highlight the differences, and you would be able to identify and do a visual regression very quickly. So yeah, absolutely. So this is built for doing a lot of UI enabled interactions and a lot of UI enabled testing as well.
Excellent. So that's all the questions that have come through, but a fair old few. So it does just remain for me to thank you, Vinny, for doing an excellent job. As always, whenever I'm on one of your demos, though this is my first webinar one, I'm always flabbergasted by both your calmness and your ability to explain. My other job there is to thank everybody here for coming to the webinar. If you do think there's something that we can't do, we would love you to throw down the gauntlet, get in touch with us, and we'll show you that we can. There may be a chance that we can't, but I'm pretty confident behind our product, so that's one thing. Again, thank you all for coming. I wish you all a lovely part of the year, whether it be winter or summer or something in between, wherever you are. And it's ciao, ciao for now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.